Nine Souls was a huge surprise for me. I went in totally blind, starting the game just out of curiosity, with no intention of playing more than a couple of hours, but I got completely sucked in, and not only ended up finishing the game, but also I totally fell in love with the story and the characters. I say all this because the musical moment that I want to talk about in this video is kind of a spoiler late in the game, and if a really well put together mixture of Sekiro's satisfying and complex combat and Hollow Knight's exploration and world building sounds like something you'd enjoy, I'd encourage you to go play the game before watching this video. But if hard games are not your thing, or you just don't care about spoilers, then I hope this look into a great musical moment from Nine Souls is appealing enough to make you think about trying out the game. It really is a work of art. Anyway, to spoil the moment for you, it turns out the little fortune teller you've been running into throughout your journey is actually one of the last bosses in the game in disguise. And after making your way deep into the labyrinthine ruins of the Grotto of Scriptures, G assumes his true form, and you begin your battle. Compared to the ambient noise that scores the area leading up to this boss fight, the first note of G's boss theme hits you like a punch in the gut. The explosive drum breakbeat and oppressive low bass pad give just the right amount of intensity for a boss fight theme, but the real source of the impact of this first note is the chord sung by the voices. Nine Souls uses the human voice as a texture all over its soundtrack to great effect, especially in the boss themes. The layered vocals in Lady Ethereal's theme symbolizing the souls trapped in her virtual reality world, the rhythmic chanting in Jiquan's theme evoking his barbaric warrior nature, the dual vocalists symbolizing the twin bosses Fuxi and Nuwa in their theme. The list goes on and on, but G's theme uses these voices to build thick, colorful, and dissonant chords that feel absolutely brutal. We're in the key of F minor, with an F bass drone running through just about the entire piece, but instead of an F minor chord, we open on a D flat add 2 over F. This is one type of chord that sounds stunning no matter where or how often you use it. It's a first inversion major chord, which means the third of the chord is in the bass, so a D flat major chord with an F in the bass. But instead of having another F in the chord voicing on top, you replace that note with the chord's second, in this case, an E flat. This gives you a D flat, E flat, and A flat over top of an F bass note, and this structure has such a rich sound. I've heard this referred to as a moo chord associated with Steely Dan, and in video game music, the most iconic example would definitely be the B flat add 2 over D in Donkey Kong Country's Aquatic Ambience. You can see the full emotive power of this chord on display there. The thickness of this chord voicing is leveraged in G's theme in combination with the way the voices sing their notes as a drone at full volume for 4 full bars at a time to completely overwhelm the player. There's an inescapable quality here, an oppressive sense of futility. This wall of sound coming at you sets the tone beautifully for the boss fight, and we sit on this chord for quite a while, but it's the next chord that made me decide I had to make a video about this. Following our D flat 2 over F is a chord made up of B flat, E flat, and E natural notes, still over our F bass pedal. This gives us an F chord with the 4th, the major 7th, and the flat 7th all at once. This is a spectacularly odd and dissonant chord. Of all of the altered extensions that have been explored in the most advanced jazz harmony, adding the major and dominant 7ths to the same chord is a sound that is rarely touched. In this case, alongside the chord's 4th, we get the dissonance of the infamous tritone interval between the E natural and the B flat. We get an unbearable semitone rub between the E flat and E natural. The alien sound of stacking perfect 4ths with this F, B flat to E flat stack up from the root, and also the cutting sound of the major 7th interval between the F bass note and this E natural. It's a smorgasbord of all of the most unpleasant intervals you can manage in one chord. I think a big part of the reason why jazz music has such complicated and dissonant harmony is its reliance on the piano as the harmonic foundation. The relative thinness of the piano's timbre compared to other instruments means that simple major and minor chords don't sound as good on piano as they do, say, being sung by a choir or played by a string orchestra. On the flip side, dissonant chords that work well on piano can sound too muddy and unpleasant with a thicker timbre, and they are much harder to sing in tune than they are to play on a keyboard. The human voice is one of the richest timbres you can use, so having such a dissonant chord like this sung by a choir makes it sound even more upsetting than it would on a keyboard or a guitar. But that's what makes it so impactful. And to sit on this thing for 4 bars straight. The boss to whom this theme belongs, G, is a centuries-old immortal being who has lived through the rise and fall of many kingdoms. For G to watch civilization crumble at the hands of a deadly virus after all that time fills him with an exhausted sense of the futility of life, and it's like all of that pain is packed into this one chord. This abomination moves to a B-flat diminished over F chord, a move that creates a deepening sense of darkness in the music. It's a plenty dissonant chord on its own, but coming from the last chord, it almost feels like a relief because it has more functional clarity to it. The B-flat diminished chord is closely related to the 5 chord of the key, C7, and pulls us back towards F minor, serving as a bridge between the overwhelming choral chords of the opening and the more subdued F minor focused string melody that follows. This somber F minor melody in the strings plays out for a while, and then the track explodes into another great musical moment. All of the energy is sucked out of the piece for this 2-beat pause, and then it rockets back with a powerful D flat chord. The melody in this section is a lot more active than the previous parts of the piece, and it moves around simple F minor melodic shapes. These phrases, so clearly outlining F minor, are harmonized with wandering inner string parts that move between the softer chords of that key. D flat, B flat minor, E flat sus chords that take the minor melodic figures and reframe them as something more hopeful. The flat 6 chord in a minor key, in particular, like this D flat chord, always has a poignant emotional quality. One of the most important tools a composer has is contrast, and we can see a ton of different contrasting elements making up the dual sections of this piece. Sitting on our F bass pedal for the entirety of the first half makes that F feel inevitable, inescapable, which gives the sudden dive to a D flat chord to start the second section so much impact. The unflinching held choir chords of the beginning, sang with such a rawness and harshness, are replaced in the second section with beautiful string lines that weave around each other. The inner voices move independently, not always in the same rhythm or direction as the other lines, separating each line as an individual counterpoint to the melody. Contrast this with the held choir chords, where the voices all congeal into one thick brick of sound. And this is to say nothing of the contrast in harmonic approaches. The dissonance of the opening was so intense, and having the F minor tonality from the beginning continue through into the melody of the second section with a softer, prettier harmonization underneath is a really beautiful way to musically symbolize hope. G became convinced of the futility of life and the meaninglessness of being, cursing his immortality, but meeting the player character, Yi, sparks a curiosity in G. He seems inspired by Yi's fight against his fate. I can't help but see the two contrasting sections of G's theme as representing nihilism and hope for the future, the battle between these two ideas being a major theme of Nine Souls' story. G is ultimately a neutral character though, never fully committing to one side or the other, and the ambiguity of his character is portrayed toward the end of the boss loop. Our droning F bass pedal returns, and these bells play a repeating figure outlining an F7 sus chord, neither major nor minor, as the music slowly dies down to a whisper before the roar of the opening chords brings us back to the top of the loop. I really can't recommend this game enough, so if you chose to power through the spoiler warning without having tried it, I hope this analysis made you want to go check it out. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.